Welcome to Amba TV, filmed here at the Centro Rizal, the cultural center of the Philippine Embassy here in Wellington. Today, we are privileged to have with us Ms. Kiya Basabas, the author and playwright, director of an exciting new play, Potluck, about Filipino families here in Wellington, New Zealand. First, Kiya, tell us a bit about yourself.
About myself, I was born here, the only made in New Zealand member of my family. I grew up in Johnsonville, and at the moment, I'm on my last year of university studying data science, and I also work as a junior data scientist.
Wonderful. Tell us about Potluck.
So Potluck is an hour-long play as part of the New Zealand Fringe Festival. It'll be put on at the Griffin Theatre. It centers around 3 Filipino families who come together in modern-day Wellington to have a potluck dinner, essentially. And through this hour, the snippet of what you might see at a potluck, we hear about themes of identity and sacrifice, and it has some comedic elements and some dramatic elements.
That sounds wonderful, and I'm particularly glad that you're here in Wellington because there's already a thriving Filipino Kiwi cultural scene up in Auckland, in Christchurch, but it's glad that you're flying the flag for a good old Welly. Now, tell me, what inspired you to write Potluck?
A few different things. Really, I have a background in theater, particularly musical theater, but a lot of it comes from wanting to see more of a story that I can really relate to on stage, and to be able to encourage people who wouldn't necessarily act, see an opportunity for themselves and be able to participate. And that was evident in the auditions alone. It was really encouraging to see all of these Filipinos, and not just Filipinos, people of Asian backgrounds, come and say, this isn't normally what I do, but I saw that I could be a part of this. And another reason for wanting to put on Potluck was, as you mentioned, in Auckland, in other cities where theatre is thriving in diversity, like in Canada and Australia, they have all of these stories told, such diverse stories from people of all different backgrounds. And I'm not the first person to do this in Wellington, but for as long as I can recall, I don't remember seeing a Filipino story in Wellington. So I saw this opportunity, I took it up, and now we're here.
That is fantastic. Galing, galing. One thing that perhaps many of our viewers know that my and the Embassy's advocacy is really to gain visibility. I was reading a blog post, or I guess it was an article, as to why Filipino American nurses are very prominent. I think one of the largest ethnicities in the American healthcare system. You have so many TV programs about hospitals, yet none of them have a Filipino nurse character. Now, a question to you is that, I guess there's this feeling, and which I strongly agree, that we're somewhat underrepresented in media, and some even go to say that we're an invisible community. I just wonder, what are your thoughts on that?
The other day I found out that Filipinos make up 1% of our population in New Zealand. And that's a huge number, and you're right in that we don't see our story. It's very underrepresented in the arts. Particularly, I find, in Wellington. I don't think that's just for Filipinos alone. I think for other minority cultures and minority ethnicities, the case is the same. But for Filipinos, we're so essential, actually, to the New Zealand economy. Just you go anywhere down south, go to anywhere that requires laborious work, you'll see a Filipino there. Funnily enough, there's a nurse in our play. Yeah, I agree, and I think that we are underrepresented. But at the same time, what I'm trying to do with Potluck is to challenge these conceptions that people have about Filipinos.
To what extent does Potluck represent your own upbringing, your own experiences?
I've been asked this question a lot, which is very funny because, write what you know is the saying. None of the characters are based on anyone in particular. So obviously Linda, who is the sort of protagonist of the Ocampo family, which is where the Potluck is set. So she's a student who, has a voice, is very vocal to her parents. And a lot of people ask, is that you? And in many ways, yes, her character comes from things that I can relate to, but Definitely not. I can see myself in a lot of other characters in the play. It definitely comes from my experiences growing up as a Filipino Kiwi, and it's sort of like a thank you to everything that I've learned.
What are your thoughts on the global dimension of Filipinos, the Filipino identity?
We're such a global culture. You can find us anywhere. But I think that what's really interesting and a big part of why I really wanted to stress that Potluck is set in Wellington, not even just New Zealand, but in Wellington, is because our experiences are so varied across the globe, right? Even Filipinos in Auckland will have a slightly different experience to those raised here. Filipino Americans, their story is completely different to Filipinos here. There's always commonalities, but I think that they face different struggles, and we face different struggles, and we both face different joys about being in our respective countries.
Just a few more things, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Could you tell me about, now going back to Potluck, tell me a bit about the cast.
Very, very amazing, incredible cast. I'm super lucky that they all auditioned because they've made my job so much easier. Because it is the first time that Potluck is being put on, I'm really open to them interpreting the characters the way that they see the characters as. And I'm really encouraging them to draw on their own experiences. The cast is a cast of 10. We have 8 Filipinos, 2 Pakeha men, and the majority of them have never acted before. It's really nice being in rehearsals when we just have conversations and they say, this I can really resonate with, or this I can really relate to, and this, like, have you written this about me? It's sort of confirming that I've done something for these people.
Yeah, I really look forward to watching Potluck. It really sounds like a hit, and to really kickstart a thriving Filipino Kiwi cultural scene here in Wellington. So finally, can you invite our viewers to Potluck?
Kia ora po mga kabayan. Thank you for listening in on this interview with myself and Ambagari. Potluck will be on at the Griffin Theatre on the 9th to the 11th of March at 6 p.m. You can get your tickets at the Fringe Festival website.
Thank you so much, Kiya,
Thank you very much, Pat.
for joining us here at the Centro Rizal Amba TV here at the Philippine Embassy in Wellington, New Zealand. Ngamihi, maraming salamat po.